award-winning author of Venerable Women, Transform Ourselves and Transform the World. Podcast, radio host, TEDx speaker, creator of the Radiant Face 18, and co-founder of New World Women. Dawn is thrilled to share that New World Women's all-women vendor online marketplace is now open to the public. Very interesting looking. I followed that link. It's called Birdie and supports women's desire to bring their products, services, and teaching out to the world. To experience this amazing creation, please go to birdie.shop or newworldwomen.com. Lake Harriet Spiritual Community, please help me welcome Dawn Morningstar.
Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to see you. The illusion of control. Control. Why do we want control so much? What makes us want control? Like, what's that all about? So, the implication for this month's theme, the illusion of control, means that we don't really have control. So let's kind of dig into that a little bit and explore control, influence, and flow. We're going to go that direction. Oh, I'm getting a yes on that. And just to kind of start us off here, take a moment and think about a situation or a relationship in your life where you feel you really need to have control over it. You are like longing to have control over it, and yet it's not working. Your control is not working. Just think about one in your own life right now. And if you continue to press on, and still we're not having this outcome that you desired in your mind, what did that make you feel? How does it make you feel? How does it make you feel in your body when you want something to happen in a particular way, or you want a person to behave in a particular way and it's not happening? What does that feel like in your body? Somebody just yell out what that feels like. Huh? Trapped. Trapped. I thought you said crap. That too, right? You do. You feel trapped. I like to think of it as when we are feeling that need for control, it's a sense of constriction. We feel constricted. We feel trapped. We feel tight. If you feel it in your body, some people say they feel it in their chest or in their stomach, right? Who wants to be walking around feeling like that, right? We don't need to. So we're going to explore some ways to look at this differently and retrain our minds and our being. So we're going to now explore this idea of control versus flow. And the illusion of control, I did research on this because you know how you feel about something, but you might not be able to describe it? I actually did research on what psychologists say about this. So we'll talk about it from that perspective, but then we'll also talk about it from a spiritual perspective, because that's why we're here, right? So the illusion of control is a cognitive bias where we overestimate our ability to influence events beyond our direct power. So it's a cognitive bias where we overestimate our own ability to influence events beyond our direct power. So this phenomenon was identified originally by psychologist Ellen Langer, and it manifests when we believe that our actions can sway outcomes determined by choice. For instance, a gambler might think that by throwing the dice with a certain force, or like saying some words before, will affect the numbers rolled, despite the randomness inherent in rolling dice. So while this illusion can lead to overconfidence and potential setbacks, it also has a positive side. So research suggests that maintaining a belief in our ability to control situations can actually enhance our sense of motivation and perseverance. I didn't see that coming. That was kind of new information for me. Psychologists argue that such positive illusions can be adaptive, encouraging individuals to persist in tasks that they might otherwise abandon. And the need to balance optimism with a realistic understanding of our actual influence. So that's something that we want to start paying attention to. So recognizing the limits of our control allows us to focus our energy where it really, really matters. So an example might be, so say you have planned a picnic and you've put all of this energy into planning this picnic, and you have the park and you have the people and the food and all of that, and all of a sudden this huge downpour comes, right? Do you have any control over the downpour? No. What you do have control over is what you will do about it. Some people would get into, oh no, I didn't want this to happen. They get all upset, and yeah, of course you're disappointed, but what you do and how you are motivated to take action when something is out of your control is something that we want to pay attention to. So that being said, I promised you a little spiritual bent on this talk as well. And so here, on the one hand, like, we have no control over the rain that's already falling and hitting us on the head, right? However, Annette Regolo, who many of you know, she has spoken here quite a bit. She taught me a process to actually communicate with the elementals, is what she calls them. The elementals are wind and water and all of the elements of the earth. And she told me that we can ask for them to help us with something or to change something. So in the example I gave where the rain's already falling down and hitting us in the head, that's already happening. But what she taught me was that if I connect with the elementals and ask them to make a change in the weather, for example, as long as it doesn't harm any other thing that's going on, or that it doesn't have any bad effects in any other way. And if I give them some kind of an offering or a prayer or a blessing, that there are times where we can influence the weather. So I was officiating a wedding near the top of a mountain in Montana about 4 years ago. And the bride and the bridesmaids, they all had very beautiful gowns on, and they were like I was going to say topless. It wasn't topless. What is it? Where it's with strapless. Thank you. Strapless. That would have been a very interesting wedding, right? And so they looked really beautiful. And what happened was the sun had gone behind the clouds, and it was freezing. It was freezing out. The wind is whipping and blowing. And so that was for the rehearsal part of it. And I'm thinking to myself, these poor women are going to freeze. The men were fine. They had tuxes on, so they were a little bit more protected. So I remembered what Annette had said. So I went into town and I bought some tobacco, like loose tobacco, because I was told that that could be a very beautiful offering. And so I went near where the wedding was going to take place, and I just asked the elementals if it's not going to harm anything or cause any other bad effects, would you please just give us a little time to have this ceremony where it's not so cold and windy. And then I wasn't even sure what to do with the tobacco, so I just made a little hole and I put the tobacco in the earth and I patted it back down and I thanked the elementals. And so I think you know what I'm going to say. It was windy and blowing, and it was about 3 minutes before we all started walking to the area where the ceremony was going to take place. And what ends up happening, the wind stopped. The sun came from behind the cloud. the women walked out in their gowns, and they weren't like, chattering and all of that. And we had, the ceremony was not a long ceremony. The bride and groom didn't want anything too long. So it was like maybe 15 minutes. And we all get off the mountaintop. We were on those little lifts to take us back down. And right as the last people were getting on the lift, the wind came back and the sun came out. Now, some people might call that a coincidence, and perhaps it was. But I like to think that it was me. I wouldn't even say having control, but I would say that I was asking the elementals to influence something in a particular way, or I was using my influence to ask for something in a particular way. And so to this day, that whole bridal party still talks about the day that Dawn put the tobacco in the ground and talked to the wind and the clouds and all of that. I tell the story because now they see that something like that is possible, and there are ways where we can have influence in other areas of our lives. So is it control or is it influence? What is it? I'm not sure. And sometimes it's a matter of semantics, like how are we describing something? So the overall idea is that we want to become aware when we are feeling this need for control, because it will always set us back. It will always make us feel constricted, and it will make us feel disappointed when that particular outcome doesn't come the way that we want it to or think it should. And you know the expression about stop shoulding on yourself. Stop shoulding on yourself. Stop shoulding on situations. And this is where we're going to, in a few minutes, talk about flow, which is a very different way to approach life. So, this human desire for control is deeply rooted in our psychology and has significant implications for our well-being. And here are some key factors that contribute to this intrinsic need. So this kind of explains how did we get to this place of wanting and needing control to begin with. It's an evolutionary survival mechanism is what it is. To be able to control, exerting control over our environment. It's been crucial by managing resources. That's something you can control. Predicting a potential threat, ensuring safety, and a sense of control has historically enhanced our own ancestors' ability to thrive. For psychological well-being, it's linked to our mental health. Believing we have influence over our circumstances can lead to increased motivation, reduced stress, and a greater sense of agency. And that's a very important word, agency. Does everybody know what that means, our own sense of agency? You hear that pop up. It's funny, you don't hear something for a long time and then you hear it in a lot of different places. A sense of agency is a sense of your own well-being, a sense of your own who you are in the world. That's your sense of agency. So it's kind of a fancy word for just saying a solid sense of who you are at your core. And then lacking in this perception may result in feelings of helplessness or depression. Again, this is all from a psychologist's standpoint. That coping with uncertainty, life's inherent unpredictability often drives individuals to seek control as a coping mechanism. Can you relate to that? Have you ever felt like you need to control things as a coping mechanism? Another is cultural and individual differences. Cultural backgrounds and personal experiences influence the degree to which individuals value control. For instance, Western cultures, which often emphasize individualism, may place a higher importance on personal control compared to collectivist societies. So that's kind of an interesting thing too. Illusion of control. So here we are. Thank you, Gary, for choosing that theme for this month. At times, people overestimate their ability to influence events, leading to an illusion of control. And again, this cognitive bias can affect behaviors such as gambling, where individuals believe they can impact something. So letting go for the need of control can lead to profound inner peace. And here are some strategies to help you embrace this mindset. The first one is, it's not going to be a new word to any of you. It's the idea of acceptance. And I do want to say a few words about acceptance, because some people think that when you accept something, that means that you agree with it or you like it. That's not always the case. But if you are able to accept that something is happening, then you have a greater sense of inner peace. Sometimes we're in resistance. I don't want this happening. And so when we don't want something to happen, then we're in that place of conflict. So that's one of the ways to have peace around this idea of control. You're trying to control something, and it's not turning out the way you had planned. And so to have acceptance will bring you a sense of peace. I'm going to stop here for a second. Any questions or comments about anything that I'm talking about so far? No? Okay. Yeah. Yes.
How do you define controlling something and simply doing what is needed for a task or for a thing?
Well, the doing what is needed is something that we all do every day. Control means that we need it to be exactly as we see it. So there's the doing of the thing, and then there's the control, or it has to turn out this way. It has to have this outcome. I think it relates back to outcomes, is what I do. I do believe that. And so you might say, well, gosh, I need to control some things in my life. Well, yeah, the things that you can control them. Like I can control what I'm saying right now, right? I can do that. I can control if I'm walking here, right? But say we put something into motion and it's not, think of the example that you thought of at the very beginning. You've put something in motion and it's not turning out the way that you thought. That is where we can get into a place of feeling that constriction, that tightness, like this is not what I want. I'll give you an example, and this is an example very dear to me. In New World Women, which is the organization that I'm a co-founder in, we started with a very specific vision almost 5 years ago about how we wanted to serve women's self-empowerment. And we did everything, like you had said, the doing of the thing. We did all the things that we needed to do, we were told to do. We did all of those things. And we raised $134,000 to move forward with this vision, this beautiful spiritual vision that was about teaching and inspiring women, bringing women together, and increasing women's prosperity. So we raised this money. There are all these people, women, excited about what we're doing. We do our due diligence. We find a software company that's going to write the program that's going to enable us to bring this forward to women around the world, right? And so we did everything that we were supposed to do. And the software company charged us over $80,000, and the software never worked. It never worked. So that was out of our control. We had no control over that at that point. But what we did have was the choice to be in flow. And that's the difference. The choice to be in flow meant we said, okay, were we happy about that? Heck no, we weren't. We weren't happy at all. But we got ourselves to a place of acceptance, and we got ourselves to a place to say, okay, maybe there's something else that's trying to emerge here. So that's another thing about control. Control is constrictive, and flow is expansive. It allows for multidimensional opportunities and possibilities to happen. And so in our case, instead of us saying, okay, that's it, we gave it our best, and it just didn't work and all of that, and we controlled everything we could control and it didn't work, we said, no, we're going to ask the universe to support us and show us what our next steps are. That was us being in the flow. And within, 48 hours, Sean, we had found another software company that charged pennies on the dollar of what we had paid the other company. And not only that, it worked better than what we were designing with the software company. And one of the people who created that whole program actually communicates with us directly. And so this horrible thing that happened turned into something really beautiful because we allowed for the possibilities. If we had tried to remain in control of it has to be this way, I think we probably would have stopped what we were doing because we would have hit a brick wall. And that's what can happen when we're trying to control something and it doesn't work. We can hit a brick wall. And when we hit the brick wall, what do you do then? You get a headache. So I'm not sure, did that answer your question or, okay. Did anybody else have, what did you say? Oh. Did anybody else have a question or a comment about this? Yes.
I have another example. The Netherlands have this tendency to make people go through baggage control, even though most of the countries are coming through. They're kind of an exchange center.
Did you say the Netherlands?
The Netherlands,
okay.
yeah. And even, it's either Paris or the Netherlands or the UK. I mean, they're kind of,
Hubs. Mm-hmm.
Of flights. And they have this pesky habit of having people go through baggage control all over again, which makes absolutely no sense because probably they just went over baggage control when they got on the plane.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way, to stop them from doing it unless you make a big scene or whatever, but then you're arrested.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just thinking, how do you stop something like that? And then I tried calling the Dutch embassy and they don't answer their phones. So there must be a mess, because can you imagine not answering the embassy phones?
Mm-hmm.
So I just wonder, what do you do with something like that? Try to have a party while you're going through baggage.
So are you saying you had to go through customs
Twice.
Twice.
Even though
So
it
what
made
do
no
you do?
sense whatsoever.
Well, what can you do? I mean, you could get yourself all in a tizzy about it and ruin your day, or you could just get into the flow of it and talk to the people. And I mean, I don't know what your options are really.
I don't either.
I guess in every case in our lives, we get to choose. We get to choose how we're going to respond to something. And this is no new news to you. I know that. Yet, if ever we were going to practice things like that, this is the time to do it, because our energy, when it's in the ground because we're angry and disappointed and all of that, that's a lower frequency energy that we don't need to be putting out there into the world right now. We want a higher vibration resonance. And so, yes, the example you gave, I wouldn't be real happy about that myself. And yet, once I realized, okay, it's either this or I don't get to fly my next leg of my trip, then I think the way that I know how I would handle it. I would say, yeah, I don't like it or agree with it, but I accept that this is the way it is. And then I feel a sense of peace. And then I could maybe have some fun conversations with the people in line, even making fun of, can you believe we have to do this, Absolutely. Yeah, and that's true. That's what I was saying before, is you can't control the two stops of, going through that is happening right now. But you can influence them by reaching out, and if you ever get through, say, is there another way you could do this, or maybe you could email them or whatever. So we can use our influence, but that doesn't necessarily mean that what we're trying to change will change. Yeah, so I think somebody else, okay.
I'm involved in a group that is moving in a direction, or it's actually already there. And I won't go into specifics, but they've gone into a direction that I don't agree with, and I think it's actually self-destructive. Mm-hmm. And I know there isn't a whole lot I can do to change their minds. Mm-hmm. They've decided on this. So is trying to control something is not a factor here, because I can't really control them. But how do you register your discontent without, being confrontational or nasty about it and saying, I think you're all crazy. Stuff like that. So
that's a really good question. I think we are encountering a lot of that in different respects right now. And so the way that I think that the masters would do it, and this is the way that I try to live my life, is when you encounter something like that, you really have three choices. You can accept it as it is, which means you're not allowed to complain about it anymore. You can change it if you are able to change it, or you can leave it. Those are really only your only three options. And in regard to changing it, and you asked me a specific question, how do I register what I feel? How do I let them know how I feel? You tell them. You tell them. I'm not sure what beyond that you're asking is like, you would just say, the way that I approach things like that, and anybody who knows me knows, Sean, you know this is true, I'll say, how open are you to something that I'm feeling or that, I'd like to share? I always get their permission first before forging in. And then hopefully they say yes. If they say no, then there's your answer. They don't want any change. And if they're not going to want to change and you're not cool with that, you need to move along. And so that's the cleanest way I know to answer that question. How does that feel to you?
Well, it's sort of what I already decided.
Good.
How do you accomplish the break without burning bridges?
How do you accomplish the break without burning bridges? Sometimes bridges get burned. It just happens. It just happens. It doesn't mean that we're being unkind or whatever, but if we're staying in a situation or a relationship that's not working for us, then it's not working. We need to move along. What you will find is if you end up leaving that group, and then you find your new group that really does align with you and resonate with you, you will attract more people who are more aligned with you and you will feel happier. Has anybody had that experience? Where, yes, a lot of people have had that experience. So, okay. Anybody else? Was there one more? Okay.
Thank you. It's a really beautiful speech that you gave. I just had one question. Which is that I've noticed as part of the human experience that one of the biggest angst or reasons of unhappiness is people not getting what they want in life or trying to impose change or wishing for something and then feeling like they're running into a brick wall of frustration. So I was wondering, could you just speak to why, as part of the human experience, us humans are always trying to change things that cannot change?
Because humans have conditioned themselves to suffer. We have conditioned ourselves to suffer. And when we do that, no one can change that paradigm but us. No one can change that but us. It's really hard to see when people do that over and over, making the same wrong choices or wanting something that isn't going to happen or isn't happening for them. And I mean, there's a whole study on this. I think Joe Dispenza talks about the neural pathways, that they're so used to suffering that even when nothing is wrong, we will create a situation to have more suffering because that's what we're used to. That's our comfort zone, right? So what is your specific question for me? Or, yeah.
I think my specific question is, in my observation, why is it so hard for a lot of us humans to embrace acceptance?
Well, because it's a skill. It's a skill. And we're not taught to accept things. It goes back to what I read from the psychologist. We're very individualistic in this society, and, we want what we want. And, I think that it's about accepting the fact that it's kind of like going back to my example with New World Women. We got to a point, I remember the day, I remember the three of us saying, we got to a point where we said, we can accept that this is not working, and now what do we do from that? But it's a skill, and not everybody has it. And you can ask questions. I think the best way, it sounds to me like you must have some people in your life who are doing this, or you wouldn't be asking this question, right? Or is this more of a general kind of a thing?
I think both. I think that I care a lot about people in my life, and also I really I think the highest form of service for me is to hold space and observe. And I just noticed that a lot of people are in a lot of unneeded misery and suffering, and if they only would just surrender to acceptance. But sometimes, obviously, it's so much easier said than actually practiced. And I humbly accept that it's harder to actually do it.
Yes. Well, here's what you will learn going forward, and you probably already know this inside of you. I can't say this deeply enough. You cannot change anyone or what they're doing, but what you can do is you can be an influence, or you can model for them what it looks like not to be in suffering. I mean, that's our goal, is to live with as little suffering as possible. What is it? Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And this is really true. The other thing is, we humans all come here to this planet with some kind of a soul agreement, and we're on different levels of evolution, of understanding, and maybe those people that you're mentioning, they're here to learn that. And, it's not yours to teach them unless they ask you. If they say, what's your first name? Philip. If they say, Philip, oh my God, you are just like, you seem so peaceful and joy-filled, and you got it together. Like, what are you doing? How do you do that? Then you share with them. But I guarantee you, if you try spouting off some of your wisdom, which I am sure you have, if you do that, and they're not ready, you are literally, not only are you wasting your time and energy, sometimes you are pissing them off. People don't want to hear what they're not ready to hear. I mean, I remember back in the day, I would, like early in my spiritual journey, I'd read the best book, and I'd tell everybody, and you got to read this book, it's going to change your life. And maybe they would buy it, and they'd read 2 pages and say, I have no idea what is this, It's because they weren't ready. It's kind of like in my 5 states of consciousness, 5 states of awareness, which I've talked about here a few times. It's the sleeper, the seeker, the student, the synergist, and the seer. The sleeper is asleep consciously. And you can go in with the most beautiful wisdom in the whole world and lay it right in front of them as this bright light. But if they're asleep, they're going to roll back over and go to sleep. They're not ready. So I would say, spend your time continuing to do your own inner work. Be an example and a role model to others. Let them feel your energy field. And if they're attracted to it and they're curious enough, then you help them. But I would not get myself in a tizzy about what everybody else is doing or not doing, because that will bring you no peace. And so, does that feel complete for you, what we talked about? Okay. Yeah, it's probably not what you wanted to hear. Because we do. I mean, I understand it. It's like we want people to do things differently. We want the world to be different. But the only difference we can make is in ourselves. That is the only one. And we can influence by our example and by our very nature and our energy what it's like to live as a whole, loving, functioning, joyful person. And that should be the goal for every single one of us. And how we get there is, there are many paths to it, many. But to, question why humanity is the way it is, I don't know that we've talked a little bit about maybe why, but the only thing we really do, if we're going to use that word control, that we can control, is what we do. So, okay. Was that everything for now? Okay. All right.
Sit here by you, Phil.
So here is from a psychologist named, and it took me like 20 minutes to learn how to say this person's name. It's Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. I did it. Okay. I love that thing. You can go online and put in a name and say pronounce, and it actually will tell you how to pronounce it. And so anyway, I was pretty excited about that. So this psychologist introduced the concept of flow, but I think we all have our own ideas of what flow is, right? It occurs when there's, the way that she describes is, this occurs where there's a balance between the challenge of the task and your skill level. So this is kind of going back to the mind. So her suggestions are engage in activities that match your skills, because then you will feel like you are more in the flow. Choose tasks that are neither too easy nor too difficult. This balance ensures that you remain engaged without feeling bored or anxious, which facilitates the flow. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Cultivate mindfulness. Everyone here is familiar with the concept of mindfulness, right? And when we practice mindfulness, it helps us to stay present. It reduces our distractions and enhances our ability to enter the flow state. The third is adopt a slow living approach. That's hard for us. We tend to want to run from thing to thing to thing with all kinds of movement and distractions. So embracing a slow living lifestyle encourages mindfulness and deliberate actions instead of just making an action on the fly because you're like freaked out or whatever. You're in this place of being quiet and still, and you can make much better decisions and therefore better actions that way. Aligning your life with your true values and promoting those qualities over your life. So like, how often do we take time to look at, is what I'm doing reflecting what I really value? Do we do that enough? And slow living gives us the time and space to do that. Embrace the natural ebb and flow of life. Recognize and accept that life has its natural rhythms, and then striving for a perfect balance can totally lead us to stress. Embrace the natural ebb and flow, allowing yourself to adapt to varying circumstances. I think that in regard to flow, we can even try to control the flow, right? So what does flow mean? Flow means that we allow. We allow. It doesn't mean we don't do anything. We have to do stuff. But we allow that something might change. And when we do our meditation in just a moment, we'll get a little deeper feeling of this. Set clear goals. Having specific objectives provides direction and motivation, making it easier to immerse yourself in activities that lead to the flow state. So, an example could be that your clear goal was to come here today so that you could be in community with others who are on this path of ascension or enlightenment or evolution, or however you want to think of it. You set that goal and then you came here and here you are. The other one is limit distractions. I mean, have you ever seen more distractions in your life than we are experiencing now? It's crazy, and that is something we can control. And even with that, stay in the flow. Maybe sometimes you're a little more distracted than other times. And then practice regular reflection or meditation or going within. That's really hard for some of us, because I used to think that if I didn't do my perfect meditation practice, in the morning, if I didn't do it perfectly and spend the 20 or 25 minutes that I had said was right for me, that if I didn't do it, then I shouldn't do anything during the day, or that I got it wrong or I screwed it up. And I realized one day, this big light bulb went off. It's like, just because I didn't do it right in the morning, like I said I was going to, doesn't mean that I can't reflect during the day, that I couldn't take a moment just to breathe. I mean, we had a meeting in New World Women the other day, and things were starting to feel tense. And that's not how we do New World Women. We don't do tense. And so we said, wait, let's take a breath. Let's just take a breath. And we did. And just as simple, I think it was maybe a minute. And then it was a reset. We can do that throughout the day. So yes, if you have a meditation practice that you love and it works for you and you do it every day, yay. If you don't, or if you feel that maybe you've missed it that day, make your whole day a meditation. I'm meditating right now. I'm listening to the universe tell me what I should share with you right now. That's my flow. Okay. So, control is linear. You want to get from point A to point B. There's an expected outcome. Stress or tension if it doesn't go the way you expected. This is not from the psychologist. This is from me. On our own, we have to do it on our own, and it must go according to plan. There's a lack of faith in or understanding of the fact that there is a much bigger picture, and that thing that you want to control, that might not be for the greatest good for every other thing that's happening. Kind of like with the elementals, when I'm asking them to, come on, give us a little warm weather and let the sun come out. But I also made sure to add, as long as it doesn't negatively impact any other thing, right? I think that control is old paradigm. I really do. And as I've said a few times, it's constrictive. It's constrictive. Flow is multidimensional and expansive. There's a soft outcome with with expansion and flow. It's a peaceful, joyful experience, even if it goes off course. The more joy you can get in your life right now, drink it in, drink it in, drink it in. Flow is part of a web of coordination, collaboration, and co-creativity in the universe. Acceptance that there is a greater picture or plan. I think the flow is a new paradigm way of living, and it is definitely expansive. So let's take a few moments for meditation. So I'm going to sit here. You all can do whatever you want to do to get yourself in a nice meditative state. So if you'd like to close your eyes, you can. Focus on your breath, not controlling it in any way, just following your breath. And allow your body to move or sway if it wants to. And then with another breath, come to your still point, to your center. Stop moving and just be still. Be in your body and witness your being. Be the watcher of your sacred self. Take a little moment to think of that time when you felt that need for control, or that you think you might feel a need for control. What is that for you? Where do you feel that need for control in your body? How does it feel to you when you have that need to control a person, a situation, whatever it might be? And then ask yourself, is it a lovely feeling or a stress-filled feeling? Does it bring me joy? Now let whatever you're feeling dissolve into a knowing that you are right here, right now. And all is well, dear one. All is well. Feel a little smile come onto your face. This signals to your body that everything is okay in this moment. You are a feather on a river, flowing with ease and calm and joy and freedom. Flowing, 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 you are. All is well. And because you're flowing, maybe if an unexpected turn in the river happens, it doesn't impact you at all. You just flow. You feel no need to control. You continue to float and flow, feeling supported by the water as though it is holding you, because it is. Any rocks or sharp objects you encounter do not bother you, because you flow around them with grace and ease. You are in the flow of the river, in the flow of life. You are one with all of it, and you feel good. You choose to feel good. All is well. You are held. You are safe. You are guided. Deep within you, you feel and know that there is a bigger picture. There is a oneness that holds you and this oneness as one. You benefit from remaining in the flow of life. You pay attention. You stay in awareness. You stay in love. You stay in trust. You claim flow. You remember in this moment that you are both human and divine. You are the middle bridge between heaven and earth. You flow in and with love in all that you do. You claim your place in the divine plan that is leading all of us to higher ground. With another breath, feel yourself fully present in your body. So it is, and so it shall be. Namaste and blessed be. And when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes. May you continue to feel the flow of joy and love in all that you do.
Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for that meditation. Thank you very much. I sure appreciate it. Oh, you're welcome to stay after. Talk with one another, and you might hang out a little bit. And we welcome discussion and stuff. There's a lot more here, isn't there? There's a lot there. This is the time that I would remind you that Lake Harriet is funded by your donations. It's our primary source of income, and it allows us to keep the lights on and bring you all of these amazing experiences. We invite you to be a partner. Please do sign up. Go to the website, check out the calendar. Please engage. We welcome you. And this is the time when we would ask for your offering.
Molly O'Malley's is not too far from here, where not a soul, the story goes, ever pays for beer. And Molly O'Malley's patrons understand that the players' fees a pint of threes. Everyone's in the band, everybody's in the band. Some join in with voices, some with pipes or reeds, some in the band clap their hands, laugh and slap their knees. Some are still and listen with attentive eyes and ears, and it's always strange how the music changes when they disappear, when they disappear. Over the door we painted bold, the question begs your pardon. Is this a place of many souls or just one very large one? Well, a bar another reads, are there many songs or just one that goes on and on? And Molly O'Malley, so they go chair to chair, and each one croons a little tune they would like to share. Some are sad, some happy. Singing has its rules, that you can't be shy and you cannot lie, but just sing a song that's true, sing a song that's true. Yeah.
We will. I might invite you to raise your hands and repeat after me. God's perfect love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. Amen. Oh, it's wonderful. And now, as we like to do at Lake Harriet Spiritual Community, we're going to make a small circle. Maybe we'll cut right through the center here, and Don and someone can help us through. We'll join hands, and Miss Dawn Morningstar will send us off into this beautiful day.
Coming in? Let's all either say or think or feel, I live in the flow of ease and grace. I live in the flow of ease and grace. I matter. I matter. My love raises the frequency of the world. My love raises the frequency of our world. And lastly, I am here for a divine purpose. I am here for a divine purpose. So it is.